Christine was a very dear friend of mine. I'll always remember the times that we had together, sharing from our hearts the struggles, the joys of life, and even in the busyness of school life, we made that time and we had time to pray as well. I cherished those moments and memories and dearly miss you, Christine, and love you forever.
I thought of her as very brave and strong.
I remember her as bright and happy, and I think she brought joy into the lives of all the people that were lucky enough to be in her life.
She was just so compassionate and loving, always willing to help, and just willing to sacrifice so much of her time.
When I was stuck on something, she always helped me figure it out every time.
One of our recently graduated students, Isabella, has sent in some words that she wants to be read out in this video. She says, "Mrs. Coleman was a lovely, kind-hearted and helpful person. She was always there to help me whenever needed. She always will be in my thoughts and will be dearly missed. My thoughts and prayers go out to Mr. Coleman and the Coleman family."
When I think of Mrs. Coleman, I think that she was really calm, caring, and just lovable.
When I think of Mrs. Coleman, I think of she had a very genuine faith to God. She was always very kind. She was always willing to help, even if she didn't necessarily have the time.
When I think of Mrs. Coleman, I always remember how she had these really cool earrings, like every single day. And she had a Bible one and a notepad one. You could just write things in there, and she had pencil ones too. It was really cool.
Phenomenal work. I have nothing but high praises for the work she's done for me and helped me along the way. Even though it was, I guarantee, tough because I sucked at math. I didn't know how to do that stuff. But she helped me every step of the way. To the Coleman family, I'd just like to let you know that whoever Mrs. Coleman interacted with, she touched us all with love, care, joy, respect, all of those beautiful things, the gifts from God that she's been given. I'd just like to let you know, and please trust me, that she will never be forgotten.
This is the one word that we think of Mrs. Coleman, and I think cheerful.
I think nice.
Something we would remember about Miss Coleman is how she always had different types of earrings that she would make.
My enduring memory of Christine is just how other-centred she was. She spent every day asking others how they were and how they were doing. She took the time to constantly remind me that she was praying for me. And one day I came into work and I found this on my desk, and it says, "To Meg with love and prayers, Christine." And the verse in it, Isaiah 41:10. And I've had this on my desk ever since. Little did I know at the time just how important that was going to be for the family. And Christine was a dearly loved and absolutely loving woman. Thank you, Christine, and Rob and the girls, we love you.
Christine always had an amazing smile. She was always happy. She loved Jesus so much that it just showed. She interacted so well with the students and with the staff. And that was just an amazing thing to see in her.
There's really just one thing that comes to mind when I think of Christine, and that is she was just always there for everyone. It was always about other people, never about herself. She had a curious mind, so she was full of these amazing facts that she would share with you, but they were always relevant to you. She had this unique ability to understand people and talk to you about what was interesting to you and what was important to you. She was so ready to pray with you. She was just the most incredible, gentle, beautiful, generous, other-centered person. We will miss her very much.
Just how much we'll miss Christine. And she was just always full of joy and full of love, and the love of Jesus just shone through. And it's not even an exaggeration either. She just was always, always joyous. And she wanted others to know that the joy that she had was because of her hope in Christ as well.
When I think of Christine, I think of joy.
I think of beautiful. She's very nice. I think she's very kind and loving. Thank you, Mrs. Coleman, for being the sweetest teacher I can remember. Thank you, Mrs. Coleman, for being a good teacher.
Mrs. Coleman always has the best smile. I don't know how she does, but every day, no matter what happens, she always has the best smile. And the one thing that I will never forget about her in my whole life is her funky earrings.
I just remember that she always was happy, and she would
regularly check up on me to make sure I was doing okay mentally and with schoolwork.
Mrs. Coleman was very kind
and considerate. Yeah, I really loved working with Mrs. Coleman. I love how she could always see a need and always was willing to fulfill it, and just would do that so happily and with such joy.
When I think of Christine, so many godly characteristics come to mind, because Jesus just shone out of her. And the first thing that stands out to me is Christine was an encourager. She always encouraged me in times that were tough, and she did the same for the students. It was with the deep and meaningful tough things, but also some light-hearted things too. She would encourage us with bargains she'd found, or bargains that Rob had found for science equipment. So that was some fun things that I remember. The most outstanding characteristic was, I think, her caring, compassionate heart. So one of the things that stands out the most too is Christine's bravery. And I don't just mean her bravery in fighting cancer and fighting illness, although she definitely showed bravery then. Also bravery as a mum. Sometimes parenting doesn't always work out as we originally think it might, and sharing stories as fellow mums and her bravery in those situations was a special blessing to me also. Christine's smile was one where her eyes sparkled and you could see Jesus shining through her. I miss that smile, and I miss our chats after school and our special times of fellowship together. But I'm looking forward to seeing that smile again when we're all together with Jesus in heaven.
She was kind and loving, and she would always be there for us when we felt sad, and she was a very good helper because she used to tie my shoelaces. When I was ever the slowest and everybody was all done, she would always wait for me. She would always help anyone that was stuck with any word, and whenever I was stuck on a word that was in a sentence of a question, she would always explain it to me so I wouldn't be confused, and she was just a really lovely teacher.
Dear Mrs. Coleman's family, as a student at Kuyper, we have heard a lot about Mrs. Coleman. She helped us out every now and then. I knew her a bit more. I'm sorry for your loss. Mrs. Coleman was a great helping teacher and was really kind to us. We really miss her. Thank you.
I appreciated Christine's genuine kindness for others, always looking for ways that she could help or support them in everything they were doing.
Mrs. Coleman was helpful for me. She was very kind.
Christine is one of the most loving people that I've ever known. So she has a heart for people knowing Jesus and knowing their value, and genuinely wanted to connect with people. So she had this habit of bringing in little tokens and things to try and connect with different students and even different staff that she was working with.
She was always so in tune with herself and the environment around her, as well as spiritually. She was just an absolute joy to be around, especially someone like me who was very often the subject of needing the help that she was asked to give. Always a calming presence to be around Mrs. Coleman. She has been the primary inspiration for me wanting to be a teacher's aide and even a teacher into the future. I want to be able to help students just like she helped me. Thank you so much, Mrs. Coleman. I will miss you a lot.
I remember Christine as being the embodiment of the fruit of the Spirit. She came to school with grace every day. The way she spoke about Rob and the girls when her face lit up with joy every time she talked about them. The way she loved all the students here at Kuyper and would go out of her way to go to op shops on the weekend to look for games for them or to find recipe books. Everything she did was looking out for other people.
Thank you for helping us out on our way to our journey, finding out how we can be. Thank you. Thank you for being there for us.
What word do you think of when you think of Mrs. Coleman?
Always friendly, joyful and kind and walk. Careful, walk. Happy. Wise, kind, loving, generous. She was kind, helpful. Kind and helpful, generous.
That she was always by my side whenever I needed help.
Because sometimes she's up in the library. Whenever I would go there, she would always greet me and welcome me in. Thank you for being such a fantastic teacher and teaching the high school and sometimes the primary.
Christine was the perfect example of a person who loved, and didn't matter who you were, what you were like, she just loved and cared for you.
Mrs. Coleman always told me that the Lord loves me. Every time I was under stress or going through exams and work, I always used to love Mrs. Coleman's smile. She used to always just like bring me joy when she would walk past me. She'd go, "Oh, hi, Charlotte," or she'd just say something nice and she'd just bring my day joy. Yeah, that was a few memories of what I had at Mrs. Coleman.
Christine was always such a joy to have around the staff community at Kuyper. We started around the same time, Christine and I, and it was always a special relationship we had. One of the things I loved about Christine is the way that she was so observant and remembered things so well. I might mention something in passing to her, a little story, an anecdote about something, and the next day she'd be there with a book about that or some type of gift that was tied in with what I'd share with her. She was so observant, and when you spoke with her, you knew that she was really listening to what you were saying, and I just love that about her.
Our dearest Christine, we miss you terribly. The one thing that sticks with me for the rest of my life is your warm heart. And it doesn't matter how much discomfort or things that are going on in your life, you always made sure that you looked after everybody else. And we love you dearly for that. The other thing that I love was that you had such a quirky sense of humour, which you often would blame Rob for, but I'm not sure about that. I think that was you, all you. Thank you for all your love and everything that you are. We love you.
Don't forget